Welcome to the session, everybody, on resilience. We're really pleased and excited to be here today, delivering the session to you. It ties in so much with anyone that's done mental health training before, or resilience. We're sort of diving in a little bit further into how to be able to support yourselves, but also those around you as well in the work environment, or outside, family and friends. So thank you for joining us here for the next 60 minutes. As Rich said, we will be recording the session. So if you had a colleague or a friend that wanted to join then and hasn't been able to, then obviously you can share with them. We'll share the link after the session. So my name's Kate and I work for People Unboxed. We deliver all various different sorts of leadership training, but we spend a lot of our time, I spend a lot of my time training people to be mental health first aiders, so all around mental well-being and resilience. And also I spend a lot of my time around inclusivity and accessibility as well. So I'm delighted to be here with you. Rich, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Kate. Yes, so Richard Jennings from People Unboxed. I've got the pleasure of knowing quite a lot of names on this list and meeting some new ones as well for the first time. So my role here is Director of Learning Experience, and I, like Kate, deliver the leadership programs, but then also as a mental health first aid trainer. There you go. I also have the pleasure of delivering our mental health offer as well as some resilience training. So you're hopefully in capable hands today with me and Kate. And just to echo Kate's words there, we are really excited about delivering this as a session. We think resilience is a hot topic at the moment, something that people can look towards to improve for themselves, but then also if you're in a management or leadership position, looking to improve it for that of your team as well. So wear those two hats today. If you've got those hats, think about yourself first. What can you do? There's lots of top tips. So have the pen, have the paper, have a notepad open, whatever helps you learn, and start to think about what you can take away. Okay, and to help us with that, let's make sure that we're running a smooth session here as well, as smooth as possible. Let's have a look at some of the housekeeping that we're going to hopefully use. So the chat function is there. So good to see a plethora of names and organizations as well, which I think is testament to our network and the people who want to work towards resilience on the webinar today. So you have got the chat function. So for those that have just joined, welcome, good morning. Do type into the chat where you're calling from. So far, Carolina in Barcelona is the person who's calling from furthest away. So you get that medal for that. So let's see. So Jen, London, not too far away, but still nice to have you on board. So good to have so many of you on board. So do use the chat function to interact. Me and Kate don't want to just be it one way here. That's not how People Unboxed operates. That's not how Kate and I operate. So we want to make sure that there's lots of interaction. Yes, lovely team. Good to see that that's working for you all. The lines are muted, but what we will be doing at the end of today's session is we will hopefully put some time aside to have some Q&As. Okay, so that's where we're going to get some interaction with you as well. And there is going to be a poll question in the middle of the session for you to utilize as well. And what is that session? Well, let's have a look at what we've got coming on in terms of the agenda. First off, we're going to look at what resilience is, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Then we're going to look and dive a little bit deeper into the 4 key factors when it comes to building resilience. And that is staying positive, being focused, dealing with uncertainty, and building agility. And as I said, at the end there, we are going to then look at some Q&As from yourselves. So what I want you to do, and I've already hopefully asked some of you who are on the call nice and early, what I want you to do is I want you to think about what is it that you want to get from today? What are your areas of opportunity, your areas of potential growth within those resilience factors and beyond? And try and then at the end of this session, put some time aside and think, what am I going to work towards? Okay, because it's all well and good taking out 60 minutes of your time, but what is it that you're going to work towards? And I think that's my first expectation. So what? You've come along to a session, what are you going to do about it for yourself or the people around you? The second expectation is about it being a safe environment. Do feel safe enough to ask questions when we open up that forum to do so. And then finally, and probably one of the more important ones, is try and be present. It's quite easy, especially on a webinar, for you to have your emails open, to be checking your phones, to be gazing out of the window, to be thinking about something else. And if you want to do that, fine, I can't stop you, Kate can't stop you. But what I would suggest is you put aside this 60 minutes, just 60 minutes towards your development and potentially that of your teams in a very important life skill. And furthermore, I mean, resilience is a life skill. So if you've got young people in your life, it's something that you can help them build as well. And I think we could all do with a little bit more resilience. So those are my 3 expectations: safe environment, be present, and that transfer of learning. What are you going to do as a result of it? On that note, should we get started, Kate?
Yes, let's do that.
Let's do it. Okay, so what is resilience is where we're going to start first and foremost. And it is the ability to be successful, both personally and professionally. It's about being able to deal with that highly pressured, fast-paced and continuously changing environment and bouncing back better than before. And for me, I really like using boxing as an analogy here. So imagine you being in one corner and you're ready to go, you've got your gloves on, you're bouncing up and down, and then you go into the middle of the ring when the bell rings, ding, 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 you go into the middle of the ring, and then your opposition comes towards you, and that opposition is life, okay? And they're going to swing a few punches here and there. Now, resilience is all about the ability, first off, to be able to understand when them punches are coming towards you and be able to duck, dodge, and weave, and maybe even take a few on the chin. That's the first step. The second part of that is, let's say all of a sudden the perfect combination is landed. And these are things that are the ultimate sort of life factors. It could be big, could be small, pressures at work, personal circumstances such as bereavement, financial worry, job difficulty, whatever it be. But let's say that perfect combination is landed. It's job insecurity, financial worries, bereavement in the family, and all of a sudden you're on that canvas looking up and you're thinking, what's just happened? Brilliant resilience is about working out what just happened, being able to sort of dust yourself up and saying, okay, that knocked me down, but let's get back up again and let's learn from that, because next time life throws that combination again, I'm going to be able to duck, weave, maybe take a few on the chin and be able to push on better than before. And that for me is what resilience is all around. And there are modern day barriers to resilience. So quick question, and use the chat to answer this. What are the barriers to resilience? What are those modern day barriers that stop us from being resilient, do we think? Type into the chat and we'll call out a few. So what are those barriers? What stops us from being resilient? Yeah, Emma, that's a really nice one, isn't it, Kate? Isolation because of home working.
Yeah, for sure. That's a huge barrier, isolation. And I think that was a huge part of, with lockdown, wasn't it? And people with their resilience, sort of with the unknown, not knowing what's going on and being isolated as well. Lots of answers in the chat there, Rich.
Yeah, lots. And yeah, social media is one that sticks out to me. The pressures of social media, that perfect life is definitely got the spotlight, isn't it? Lots of things around anxiety, around time, around work. Theo, I really like the point that you've put here, the imposter syndrome, something which is getting a lot more of focus on. Claire saying around being unable to switch off. Yeah, just constantly on, aren't we? Physical health, yet completely interlinked, the mental health and the physical health aspect. If you're not feeling well physically, chances are it is going to hinder your ability to be resilient. Focus being mentioned as well. So yeah, we've got lots of these barriers, haven't we? And if we think about this, what it does is it stops us from being resilient, but more importantly, it could cause us harm in the long run. And I want to sort of talk why resilience is so important. Hopefully we're all on the same page here, but if not, every single person on the planet has mental health. Okay, every single person. And me and Kate are hopefully doing a good job in dispelling the rumor that it's us versus them, which is often the perceived perception, which we can see on this brilliant graphic here. It's people with mental illnesses and then everyone else who's got good mental well-being, good mental health. But in actual fact, every single person on this planet has mental health, which fluctuates up and down this ever-changing, ever-fluctuating continuum. So one moment we've been feeling good as gold, excellent mental health, but then something can happen. Job insecurity, bereavement, divorce, money issues, children, marriage, the pandemic is a good example, friends, family, the news, the weather, whatever it be, and it doesn't have to be a big thing, okay? But whatever it be, it could then cause us to start moving down the continuum. And our ability to be resilient when those events happen can be the difference between bouncing back up the continuum or not. And if we're not, that's when we need to be very wary, not just of ourselves, but other people as well, of serious mental health issues. And whilst we're talking about why it's important, I guess the second reason is the impact on performance, right? We're all in professional fields. We want to be able to do our job to our best of our ability, but the impact on our performance has a huge bearing here. So our well-being and how much under pressure we feel can be linked to our ability to perform. So if we're not under too much pressure, as you can see from this graph on the slide here, it's likely we're going to get bored and we're going to disengage. But too much, and we're going to go into that strain and burnout, where we start to see our performance drop and our mental health taking a huge battering as a result. So what we want to find for ourselves and also for people around us is that sweet spot, just the right amount of pressure where we'll be engaged and performing at our optimum best. So that pressure, just to reiterate, that pressure is what's applied by the external environment, so work, family, a situation. And how each individual copes with it is their internal feelings, which can result in that stress. But remember, by applying the same amount of pressure to several different people, it's going to result in different performances depending on their resilience and their ability to cope. So there's a few things that we can do for ourselves and also as managers, as team members, that we can do to support ours and other people's well-being and their levels of resilience. And that's what we're going to explore with these top tips and ideas throughout the session. Kate, over to you.
Absolutely. And, that's why it is so important to recognise, barriers for ourselves and also those around us as well, because it does have a huge impact on people's mental health and resilience. So, it's not always that the things are a quick fix and we can get rid of these barriers sometimes. But what we can do is make sure we are, leading to conversations, finding out how we can support people in their resilience and help as much as possible. But it's not being too hard on ourselves. If there are barriers at a certain time in our life and our resilience takes a knock, not being too hard on ourselves and just seeing if there are slowly ways to be able to pick up and recover. So let's look at the 4 pillars of resilience. This might be familiar to those of you who have done our mental health first aid courses. So we've got the 4 pillars of resilience here. We've got stay positive, be focused, deal with uncertainty, and building agility. And when we talk about building agility, we're talking about managing emotions. So each of these 4 characteristics is an important part, okay, of building on our individual resilience when we're faced with challenges or we're faced with adversity or things that happen within our lives. And there may be a certain time in your life where we don't necessarily need all of these 4 factors, but it may well be that you need to be able to stay positive. So we're going to look at all of these different the different 4 factors throughout this session and give you some tools and tips and techniques. So sort of building you a toolkit. So when things do happen within your lives, you can call upon these tools and these skills that you've learned to be able to support yourselves. So let's look through now at the different ones. We're going to start with staying positive. So when we're talking about staying positive, we're going to break it down into 3 parts. We're going to break it down into recognizing own strengths, focusing on energy, not time, and positive intelligence, PQ. So some of you may have done some work around your individual positive intelligence before on courses, but it's a really nice, interesting way in how we can sort of build on resilience and stay positive. So recognizing own strengths is all around helping to remind us what we're good at, right? Particularly when things are stressful or we're working really, really hard at work, or we've got a new project and maybe our confidence has taken a knock. It's reminding ourselves what we're good at, right? Recognizing our own strengths, keeping ourselves in a positive mindset and supporting others to do the same. Focusing on energy, not time, because you know what, if you are depleted of energy, how on earth are you going to be able to remain positive, right? So it's about managing energy so that we can maintain a more positive outlook. Positive intelligence, PQ, is about our mind serving us and helping us. So, trying to mitigate the negative thought processes and that hinder your progress, and actually look at how we can encourage positivity. within the way we see things and the way we think. Okay, so let's start with recognizing own strengths. And I think this is a super important one, recognizing own strengths, because sometimes as a society, I think we do focus on weaknesses, you know, even from a school age, right? We compare ourselves to other people, right through upbringing, through school, whether it's, you know, not being great at, you know, physical education, not being great at running, but it's actually flipping how we see things and encouraging those around us to do the same. And whether that's colleagues, whether that's children, those around us, it's, you know, okay, well, what are you good at, right? So, you know, you might not be great at maths, me included in that, but you might be really, really great at relating to people. Okay, so it's always trying to see, you know, flip how you see things, how you view yourself, and recognizing your own strengths. And it's a really powerful tool to use when you're supporting those around them, get to think, you know, believing in themselves and what they're good at. So it's about flipping how we see our weaknesses. I don't know if you've heard of the quote from Albert Einstein, which we really like at People Unboxed, is everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid, right? Because that's not going to happen. But if that fish focused on you know, how agile it is in the water, right, then that's going to have a more positive outlook for it. So this is just about, you know, embracing that we are all unique. You know, those around you at work, we're all unique. We all have different strengths. We've all got different things we can bring to the team, different working styles, different ideas, different personalities. So it's about embracing that and focusing on that, on what people bring to the team. It's not just positive for that individual, but it's actually more productive for the team as well. So it's about not wasting time. If you're not particularly good at something, right? Obviously, it's great to give things a try, but, you know, it might be great for somebody else to do that for their own resilience as well and ability to stay positive. Secondly, we're going to look at managing energy, not time. And as I mentioned, you know, if you don't have energy, if you are exhausted, it's very, very hard to stay positive. I know I certainly can't. So this is about managing energy, not necessarily time. So I don't know if any of you have come across ultradian cycles before. So this is the idea that our bodies have cycles that they go through several times a day, and these are in 90-minute sprints. Okay, as humans, we're not marathon runners in terms of energy, and these 90-minute sprints are called ultradian cycles. Okay, so the idea is that we should work in these 90-minute sprints rather than working as marathon runners. So, for example, you know, if you've got a big project that you're working on that's taking a lot of headspace, you know, one of those projects that is all consuming, then the idea is that you don't just head down and continue to work on it, you know, for the whole day. It's you work for 90 minutes, step away. Now that could be going and getting a coffee, stepping outside, or it could be, you know, replying to some emails, making a couple of phone calls, and then coming back. You know, a couple of minutes is fine, and then coming back to the project and continuing. Okay, so what we're doing is in this time, we're managing our energy and not just the time. So sometimes we think that we just need to get our heads down and keep going. But actually, what we're not recognizing is when our energy levels are dropping. Okay, and if our energy levels are dropping, we're actually not being productive. So sometimes the most productive thing you can do is step away, recharge for a few minutes, and then come back. And there's lots of apps to be able to help you with that. There's also a Pomodoro technique, which some people use. I prefer, which is working in 25-minute sprints, stepping away and coming back, because my attention span is not as good as other people's. But there are apps like the Be Focused app, which is an app you can try. And also there's the Forest app as well, which is another nice one to mention there. Now let's look at the final element of staying positive, which is our self-talk, PQ, positive intelligence. Now, it's part of being human. We all have self-talk, we all have PQ. And how this looks like on the screen is at one side of your brain, of your mind, you have your survivor brain. Okay, so this is tasked with survival. And when we activate this area of our brain, we activate our saboteurs. Okay, so this is where we are in survival mode, and this is where we're activating emotions such as anger, you know, stress, shame, guilt, blame, all these sorts of negative emotions, because we are producing cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Okay, so that's why that's linked to that, and you get that sort of tunnel vision, you become overwhelmed. Whereas on the other side, on the screen, it shows your thriving brain, which is your mind that's serving you. And when you activate this area of your brain, this is where you are thriving. This is where you're feeling, you know, in the zone. You know exactly what you're doing, what you're working towards. You're feeling calm, peaceful. Maybe you're feeling very curious. Maybe you're feeling quite creative, in the zone. So it's just about identifying when you are activating each area of your brain. Okay. So your own individual PQ, your PQ strength is the difference is the balance between these two areas of your brain. Okay, so I'll give you a really easy example of the difference. So say, for example, you've got a really, really important meeting tomorrow. Now, if your mind is telling you today that you should prepare for tomorrow's meeting, it's serving you, right? It's wanting you to feel calm, ready, organized, and prepared for tomorrow's meeting. But if, it's waking you up at 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, if your mind's waking you up and warning you about, how awful it's going to go, you're going to fail, everything's going to fall apart, then it is sabotaging you. Okay, it's exhausting your mental resources without any added value. So it's just about identifying what's going on within your mind, when your brain is serving you, when your mind is serving you, and when it's sabotaging you. So what you want to do is you want to alter the balance between your saboteurs and your sage brain. This is all about mental fitness. Okay, so we can all build on this as individuals. So one nice way that we can do this is to recognize our saboteurs and weaken them. Okay, so think of your saboteurs as your internal enemies, right? They're basically habitual mind patterns, and they can be beliefs and assumptions that you've learnt maybe from childhood, or different things that you've been through in the work life, or different experiences that you've had. And these are, they take advantage of our emotional reactions to something, our fight or flight mode. So we all have saboteurs as part of being human, okay? Yeah, we all have them, but some are stronger than others, depending on us as individuals and the experiences that we've had, okay? So having a look at the screen there, what I'd love for you to think about is the ones that really resonate with you as your own saboteurs, okay? So, for example, one of the saboteurs is an avoider. Yeah, so is it that when you've got too much to do, you avoid, paper bag over your head, you avoid completely, or maybe you procrastinate when you're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe a controller, maybe you like to do everything yourself because you think you can do it best and you stop other people from maybe having an opportunity. Maybe you're a pleaser, right? And, these aren't just inside of work, this is outside of work as well. Maybe you find it really hard to say no, and you find that you're saying yes to everything to the detriment of yourself and your own mental health, or maybe you're a stickler wanting everything done perfectly. So start to think about which ones resonate with you. And then, what I'd love you to consider is how that's affecting you in a work context. So I'd love for you to type into the room chat which one resonates with you the most. We normally have a few that resonate with us, but is there anything in particular that resonates with you? And as I'm giving you a moment to think about that, I know for sure for me, controller and avoider are my two main saboteurs for sure. I like to do everything myself because I feel like I can do the best job, which isn't always the case, I'm sure. And when I have too much work to do, I procrastinate. So, but the point is that I recognise that these are my saboteurs, and you can do things to mitigate that and to minimise, because particularly when we're under stress, these saboteurs come out. So let's have a look in the room chat, Rich. What have we got?
Oh, there's a lot of pleasers out there today, Kate. So they'll be pleased to know that they're pleasing us by coming along to this webinar. But yeah, and as always, when we run this part of the session on either the mental health first aid or a half day, full day on resilience, lots of variety, right? And that's the thing, it is personal to the individual. So I think all of them have been ticked at least one, if not two parts. But yeah, please arrest all of them coming out, Kate, all of them.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely. And so it is taking it a step further and thinking about, how is that affecting me in a work context or outside of work? Because when we are under pressure, when we are, maybe our mental health has taken a toll, or there's other things going on that are putting pressure on us, these saboteurs make the most of that when we're feeling stressed and we're sort of not taking a step back, or maybe having that headspace to think creatively or think logically. So just being mindful of that, for example, if you're a pleaser, you need to have boundaries, right? You can't always say yes to everybody else. So just bearing that in mind, if a lot of people are asking you to do different things, it's remembering that pleaser is one of your saboteurs, and making sure that you have boundaries and you do push back sometimes. Or if you are an avoider, it's making sure that you are maybe prioritizing your time effectively, which we'll look at in a moment. So Rich is going to pop into the room chat a link for any of you that do find this interesting. It's not just Rich and I being sad because we love stuff like this. There's a link in the room chat there for you to have a look through, and this is going to help you identify your saboteurs. It's a bit of a self-assessment, but also some tips also on how to combat as well.
Yeah, and I've just shared that link now, team. So make sure you do save that before you leave today's session. It's the same one as the QR code that you'll see on the screen as well, and it's free to do, and it's got heaps of tips and tricks as Kate mentioned there.
Brilliant, thank you. And so it's first of all, it's about recognizing our saboteurs, minimizing those, but also encouraging our sage brain, right, as well. So we want to minimize, that survival area of our brain, so it's not letting it, that sort of impacts on our mental health and our resilience, and encouraging the sage brain, which is where we thrive, where we feel creative, where we feel like we're in the flow, where we feel calm. Okay, and there's a few ideas on the screen there of how we do this. These are doing things like innovation, trying new things, pushing the boundaries, taking decisive action on the things that you want to work towards, exploring, be curious, have an open mind, have that growth mindset to try new things, and bring real empathy, I think, into your thought process as well. If you have got a lot going on, not being too hard on yourself and others, and it's bringing that compassion and taking a step back to have that, bring that understanding into the situation as well. So it's trying new things, exploration, and also being kind to yourself as well. So this is about flipping a negative into a positive. When we're talking about staying positive, being decisive, living by your values, right, and the things that matter to you, and having a growth mindset, which we'll be exploring a little bit later.
Perfect.
I'll come back to you, Rich.
Thanks, Kate. Yes, so that's the first one that we've looked at, which is stay positive. We're now going to look at being focused, and to be able to activate, navigate, explore in that sage moment, we need to manage our time. So the second resilience factor is all around being focused. And I think it was Peter Drucker, thought leader and management connoisseur, who said, until we can manage time, we can manage nothing else. And whilst, yes, managing your energy is really important, and I think Kate did a great job in demonstrating why, we do need to have a grasp on time. Quite a lot of the barriers to resilience is around time. So here's a few ideas on how we can be focused. First off, it's about personal values and your purpose. So if we know what we stand for and why we're doing what we do, we can align it with our goals and achieving our task and keep us focused on that. So yes, let's cover that in a bit more detail, because our purpose helps us to understand how what we do feeds into that overall business strategy, and our values, those are the things that keep us in line with that, keep us in check, keep us on the straight and narrow, and they guide us to the right decisions that we make and how we do things the right way. And the more aware of them we are, the more we can use them as a moral compass and make quick decisions, and effective ones at that. So if we can also help colleagues around us to understand what values they have, and if they align with the work that they're doing, this will hopefully help them maintain focus on the task at hand. So that's the first one, around personal values and purpose. Smart targets and time management and prioritization are the second and third. And I want us to go into a bit more depth on that now. So smart targets, I think the simple models are sometimes the best, and we harp on about SMART quite a lot within our leadership programs, and hopefully many of us are aware of them. If not, take this away, because SMART targets help to give focus to not only yourself but team members around you as well, because they will understand, and you will understand, what's required of you, rather than it being ambiguous and uncertain. So let's go through these now. So SMART, an acronym. So S is all around being specific. Do we actually know what we're trying to achieve? Is it clear to both the person who set it and the person who's trying to achieve it? Is it measurable? How do I know that what I'm working towards is going to be successful? How do I know what I'm focusing on? Yes, the goalpost will change, so you can have agile SMART goals, but what is the measurement? And I like the A and the R, because the A and the R, there's different versions of this out there, but we like attainable and relevant. And this is where we have that two-way conversation with the individual that we're setting the goal, or with ourselves. Is it actually attainable, and is it relevant to what I'm trying to achieve? Because if it's not going to help with our focus. And then finally, what's the time-bound nature of this? When do I need to achieve this by? Because if I've got that, as I'm sure we can all attest to, I'm much more likely to achieve it. Whereas if your manager says, yeah, get that to me when you can, that gets bumped down that to-do list, because it's not time-bound. So it's really important, where possible, to have a time-bound moment. So that SMART targets will help us to stay focused. And then top tips. I just want to give some top tips before I hand back over to Kate to explore the third of the 4 factors, which is deal with uncertainty. So these top tips, these are recommended by Indeed.com, which is, according to them, the #1 job site in the world. And what they're all around is around improving focus and concentration at work. And this may seem challenging at first, but with regular practice, it can become easier. Quite a lot of the barriers that you suggested within the chat there was around sort of time and focus. So following these strategies can hopefully help us boost our focus and therefore increase our productivity and allow us to be a bit more resilient when we come across sort of that time pressure that often impacts. And so limit or remove the distractions is the first of these tips. So taking them away, then that can be as simple as putting your phone just out of arm's reach or in the drawer. And I know a few of you on this call use that as a technique from previous discussions, and it's a simple yet effective one. It's around creating friction. For those that have seen or read Atomic Habits, it's about putting friction in to allow you to minimize the distractions and those bad habits, so to speak. So remove those distractions, and that could be turning off notifications or pop-ups. It can be making sure that you're focusing on the task at hand. So the second one is identifying the current state of your focus. So before you work on improving your ability to focus, you need to take some time to identify what your current habits are. Do you regularly allow your distractions to take you away from work? Are you often find yourself losing track of your progress? So try and put some time aside, and as soon as you find yourself distracted by that task, check the time to see how much time has passed, and that'll give you that baseline to work on, and then make it more smart. Going back to smart, increase your focus slowly but surely. Yeah, so set those realistic goals. If you find it very hard to focus, then set 5 minutes rather than going, I'm going to focus for 30 minutes. That's going to be going back to that unattainable. It's going to be unrealistic, whichever one you want to look at in SMART. So set goals that you're going to achieve. You're much more likely to pick up a good habit if it's achievable ones, and then create bigger goals on the back of that. So increase it slowly is the third tip. Fourth one, concentrate on one task at a time. I don't know if you're like me. Sometimes I have Teams open, emails open. I've got Excel documents open. I'm working on a PowerPoint, and actually, whilst that might work at a short term, long term, it's not good for one's concentration. So whilst we're thinking we can do multitask, and there's some arguments out there that multitasking doesn't exist, what we want to do is concentrate on one task at a time, and that can help us with our productivity and therefore our focus. So focusing on that, doing that, rather than trying to juggle too many balls, which ultimately might mean we drop a few. Then finally, and this is one we find very hard to do, especially as Kate mentioned earlier with the energy, is taking those breaks. Schedule breaks in, put them in your diary, and make sure that you are prioritizing them. Because yes, getting things done, hard work is a key contributing factor, but actually build in some break time so then you can go again. And if that means getting some fresh air, going for a 15-minute walk, making sure that you go and sit somewhere else to have lunch, do that. Because when you come back, you are allowing yourself that moment away from the screen, away from your job, away from what's going on, to then come back in, and hopefully in doing so improve your focus on it, and then thus becoming more productive and more resilient. Okay, back to you for the third one.
Absolutely. And, taking scheduled breaks does really tie in with the staying positive, right? With the ultradian cycles, as Rich mentioned. And for sure, that's something that supports me, seeing as procrastination is for sure one of my saboteurs. So yeah, that's definitely something that works for me. So let's look at the third resilience factor, which is dealing with uncertainty. So uncertainty is a certainty in life, right? Change is constant. It's inevitable, but what we can do is teach ourselves some techniques to help deal with it, right? To be able to deal with that uncertainty. So we're going to look at the change curve, which is a useful model for us to understand the different stages that we go through when we're faced with uncertainty, the different emotions, and how to support ourselves, be kind to ourselves, and support others around us. We're going to look at the circle of control, which is again thinking about, you know, what's within our control, how can we expand our circle of influence to support ourselves, and then developing a growth mindset, which again is very similar to what we've looked at. It's trying new things, being creative, being innovative, which again helps with sort of mental flexibility and mental resilience as well. So let's start by looking at the change curve. So this is to help us you understand the process that we all go through when there's change. Now, this could be a huge organizational change. It could be a change that's going on in our personal life outside of work, or it could something be very.
Hi there, everyone. I've just lost Kate, which is a shame, really. So good. Thanks, Claire, for letting me know. I'm gonna take the reins and see what I can do whilst we're waiting for Kate to come back in there. So as Kate was mentioning there with the change curve, it can be something for big and it can be for something small. And it originally came from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who created this change curve based on the 5 stages of grief. When going through, I believe it was when finding out about a terminal illness. But what they've since done is they've applied this model to business, to organizational change. And what we can see here is that there is a whole plethora of very strong emotions that people will go through. And there's 3 key sections that I want to touch on. First off, phase 1, which is all around the ending. Now, the ending, that is, it sounds strange when we're going through change, but that is the ending of the current. So any change signals the loss of the familiar. So before something new can take place, something old has to end. And as people begin to disengage from the past, what they actually start to experience is really strong emotions. So denial, anger, resentment being put through this. And we can probably relate to this through change that we've been through. Talking of change, I believe Kate is back on board. Kate,
So
are you
actually,
there?
just to let you all know, that was me stepping away. I was just sparing my old trading cycles there. I was stepping.
I think you stepped away again. Yes, obviously internet connection is something of this. So Kate, whilst you sort that out, I'm gonna try and get through the next 2 to see if you can get yourself sorted with Wi-Fi. It's the worst when that happens, isn't it, team? But phase 2 is the neutral zone. This can be confusing because we're in between states. It's clear that we're not going back, but it's not yet very clear on how we're going to get to the new. So it's a creative phase as well, which also makes it the most frightening as well. So during this phase, remember, this is all around uncertainty. So during this phase, people may experience excitement and enthusiasm, but also confusion, a lack of coherence, some frustration as they seek to discard from their old ways and experiment with the new ideas. We like that comfort zone, don't we? But then we start to go into that beginning, okay? And you may be able to relate to this, to organizational change, things that you've been going through or are going through currently. And as the chaos starts to begin to recede, the change starts to become crystallized. The new beginning starts to energize people. People seem to see these new opportunities, and they get excited about it. They want to make some adjustments so they can master their role. And they've got a fairly clear focus now on what they should be doing. And the emphasis at this stage should be on cooperation, teamwork, goal setting, and furthermore, celebration. Celebrating that we've got through this change so that when we have to go through it next time, we're ready. We know that we've been through it and we can do it again. So key thing on this for me, one for ourselves, is understanding that when we're going through change, we're going to be experiencing vast amounts of different emotions, and that's okay. That's normal. That's part of it. What we need to do is help ourselves through this curve. We have to go through it. The time it takes to progress through the curve is dependent on the individual and how deeply affected they are by it. But if we're in a leadership position, often we need to know around what we should be doing to help people through this change as well, rather than let's just let them on for it. So communicating often and effectively, be transparent as much as you can, providing support, guidance, and an ear to listen to, empathy. All of these things can really help us through change. And what we have to remember is that change is a process where people react differently. So being aware of the process can help you, and it helps others when they come to navigating it as well. So yes, patience, perseverance, and communication. There's some key tips there. And on that, let's now look at the circle of control. Kate, I'm going to give you the reins back. Okay. All right. Let's see if this works.
We give it a go. Let's give it a go. So we're going to look at this, the circle of control, which is going to help support our own mental health and resilience, right? But also making sure we support others with this. So we all have things in our control that we worry about and things that we worry about that are out of our control. So it's just identifying how we can expand our circle of influence, which hopefully is going to alleviate those feelings of uncertainty. So, okay, so for example, there might be a new policy that's been brought into place at work that's been implemented that has a huge impact on you as an individual or your team. And it might be that you're concerned about that. You're concerned about the extra pressures, for example. So it's looking about how we can expand our circle of control and our circle of influence, which hopefully helps to alleviate the concern, right, and that feeling of uncertainty. So, for example, can you have any influence in how that's being implemented? Could you influence up in terms of to your own leaders and get your voice heard? And get your concerns heard, or you know, if you know your team have got particular worries, those around you, can you voice those concerns? You know, that new policy or that new procedure may still be necessary. So there may be things that you can't control. However, there may be accommodations, okay, that can be put in place to support you to really expand on your circle of influence, to sort of alleviate those feelings of concern. So by looking to widen networks, by looking to have a say in things that go on within the workplace, or decisions that are made, you can help to reduce your own levels of uncertainty and encourage your colleagues, or, you know, if you have any direct reports, to do the same, to voice concerns, because it helps not only as individuals for us to gain credibility and influence, but and confidence, but it also helps to, you know, sort of really minimize that circle of concern, so that we have that circle of control and we have that circle of influence. So it's encouraging yourselves to do that. Talk, you know, if it's something that you wouldn't normally do, really try and do that, to sort of to have that influence and gain a certain level of control, and have that autonomy, and encourage others to do the same, to feel safe, to feel heard and grow and thrive in that way. Lastly, the last point we're going to look at for dealing with uncertainty is having a growth mindset. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, if those with a fixed mindset believe that things like skills and qualities are set at birth, and that's your lot. So, you know, if you're not good at sport, that's it. You were born not good at sport, you're not going to bother trying, right? So somebody with that attitude you might hear things like, oh, well, it's okay for them, they're brainy, or it's okay for them, you know, they're good at running. Or, you know, well, they're creative. So that feeling of you're not naturally good at something, that then may be reluctant to put the effort in to learn. But whereas those with a growth mindset, a great example of somebody with a growth mindset is Michael Jordan. There's a quote on the screen there. So lots of shots missed, lots of games lost, but overall very, very successful in life. I'm sure we'd all agree. So, you know, it's having a growth mindset as the idea that through hard work, you know, determination, keep going, and even when you fail, you know, pushing forward, that there's not an end point. We can continue to grow as individuals. So let's look at the next one, where Rich hopefully is going to put a poll on the screen, and I'd love for you to tell me whether you think these statements are a fixed or a growth mindset. So on the screen, hopefully you will see a poll, and I'd love for you to click on the answers there, whether you think it's a fixed or a growth mindset. I give up easy when things are getting tough. You can let me know what you think. Second one is I am persistent in the face of setbacks. This is the second statement. Third statement, I avoid sitting in my comfort zone all of the time. And the last one is I avoid challenges that can lead to failure. So I'll just give you a couple of moments to type in your answers, and then we'll go through.
Yeah, make sure you submit the answers once you've clicked on them as well, team. Nice to see so many answers come through. I'm going to give you 10 more seconds.
And Rich is quite strict with time, so we will not be going over.
That's why I had the be focused one and not you.
Rich runs a tight ship. He's be focused. Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go then, team. 3, 2, 1. Lock in your answers.
Locked in. Brilliant. So I'll just pop through now to run through. So I give up easy when things are getting tough. Yeah, absolutely. It's a fixed mindset, right? So 84% of you got that right. So if you're giving up easy just because things are getting hard or tough, then absolutely that's a fixed mindset. I am persistent in the face of setbacks. Statement 2, yes, it's a growth mindset. So even if there's a setback, even if there's a barrier, it's still persistent. It's still keep going, still trying. That's a growth mindset. Third statement, I avoid sitting in my comfort zone all of the time. 91% of you said it's a growth mindset. Absolutely. So you're not just settling for what you've got. You're going to push yourself to try new things. It's a growth mindset. Statement 4, I avoid challenges that could lead to failure. Absolutely. 75% of you, that's a fixed mindset. If you're not doing something because you're worried about failing, then that's a fixed mindset. You know, we always sometimes fail, or we face barriers, or we're not successful, but it's about continuing to try. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, thank you for that. So let's now, just going to give you a few examples on the screen. So I won't read through all of them, but just to give you a bit of an overview and understanding. So for example, when faced with challenges, somebody with a fixed mindset might avoid those challenges or give up, whereas somebody with a growth mindset is going to embrace and try and persist. Faced with criticism, somebody with a fixed mindset might ignore constructive criticism, where somebody with a growth mindset will think, right, well, you know, how can I improve? What can I do better next time? So, you know, this is about, it's to have a growth mindset is key when we're talking about dealing with uncertainty and having resilience, because we're looking to stretch ourselves, okay? And that will help, you know, being persistent with that. So if we embrace change and we embrace challenges, that's going to really support ourselves. So we don't want to settle. We want to push forward and push our position on. Which is a key skill. So when we are facing uncertainty, it can be really hard to manage our emotions, and that's what we're going to look at next is how to manage emotions. So understanding how to identify and manage emotions is an important part also of alleviating uncertainty. So Rich now is going to take us through the last factor here.
And I've just reflected, Kate, and I promised team we didn't do that deliberately. Kate's Wi-Fi genuinely did go off there. But what a great example of dealing with uncertainty there, being in that circle of control and having a growth mindset. So well done, Kate. Well rehearsed, by the way. Yeah. Okay, so the final of the four sections then, team, building agility, which, as Kate mentioned, was all around the emotions. And there's two key points that I want us to look at before we get to the end of the four resilience factors. So understanding our triggers and therefore managing our emotions, which helps us to be agile, choose a different behavior or reaction than we usually do. And that links to emotional intelligence for those that have explored that subject. Reframing. Now, reframing, that's building on the other 2 points around triggers and managing emotions, where we consider an event which might usually cause us to worry, panic, get annoyed, or whatever it is, and we choose a different reaction and therefore output. So let's look at those in detail. So first off, triggers. Now, there's some fairly emotive points up here on the slide. We all have situations, events, words, phrases that are going to set us off and have a negative emotional reaction. So mine, certainly, you see it on the screen, is driving. Middle lane hoggers. If you're one of them, you trigger me, okay? I feel better for saying that now. But what I need to do is I need to first off become aware of that trigger and then navigate a different response. Okay, it's not on the individual in the middle lane to do it. It's on me. I have control. Okay, so taking control and navigating a different response. And emotional intelligence is that concept of becoming aware of not only our emotions, but the next step is those around us as well. So yes, start with us, start with ourselves, and have a greater awareness of how we react in certain situations, and then hopefully that's going to help us to keep our emotions in check. But also be aware of the people around you. What triggers them? Is it, for instance, a messy workspace? Is it someone walking into a meeting late and not saying sorry? Is it the fact that people show apathy when it should be a subject that people should be excited about? Think about that and think about a different, or navigate a different response. And to help with that, what we're going to look at is reframing. So that's that second element, which is all around that mental flexibility. Some of you may have come across this before, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a scenario to bring this to life. All right. So, and I'm going to get you to interact at 3 stages, and I'm going to ask you the same 2 questions throughout these stages. What are you thinking, and how are you feeling? So these should be 1-word, 2-word answers, and I want you to be as honest as possible. We're going to see what they come out, and Kate's going to call out as many as possible. So let's imagine this. All right. So come with me on this journey. So you've arranged to meet a friend after work. Right? You've been at a training workshop that day and the very kind trainer has said, do you know what, let's finish 10 minutes early. And instead of going back to work, you went to the coffee shop or a pub, depending on who you are, and you sat down, you ordered a drink, and at this point you're 10 minutes early for your friend. What are you thinking and how are you feeling? Okay, type into the chat, what are you thinking and how are you feeling at this stage? So you're 10 minutes early, you sat there with your drink of choice. How is everyone feeling?
Happy. We've got happy, relaxed, excited. Yeah. Can I get another drink in, Steph? Relax and have a drink. Lots of happies.
Yeah, thirsty. I like that one.
Thirsty, yeah.
Okay, so I think what a day, says Natalie. I love that. I think what we're seeing here, Kate, is positive emotions, right?
Yeah.
Positive emotions. Good. Okay, so now it's 20 minutes later, right, team? So we're back on that seat, maybe in the sunshine if we're lucky, with a drink in hand. But it's 20 minutes later. Your friend is now 10 minutes late. You try calling them, but they don't answer. How are you feeling and what are you thinking now? Natalie's fed up.
Fed up, yeah. Got a few concerned, disappointed, annoyed. We've got some worried. And that might depend on the friend, right? If it was me, somebody that's always late, you might not be concerned. But if it's somebody who's normally on time, you might be worried. That you should have been patient. So a little bit more, a slight change there in emotion.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's 20 minutes later again now. So your friend is 30 minutes late. You've left a message to say that you're waiting. You still haven't heard from them, and this bar, this coffee shop is starting to get more and more full. What are you thinking now and how are you feeling?
Worried, concerned, annoyed. Yeah, you might be really concerned if for your friend. This friend owes me a dinner. Play a mix of irritated and concerned. Yeah, you might be a bit annoyed. You've sort of put the time aside to meet them. Drunk, Julian.
Okay.
Yeah. Worried, yeah, absolutely. So again, it's just interesting, isn't it, within those 30 minutes how emotions change so quickly.
Yeah, and these also link to our saboteurs as well, I think, Kate, these emotions. So what if let's say, what if we just sat back and enjoyed the relaxation time? We were quite relaxed, quite positive in that first element of that scenario, and then we wouldn't have felt as annoyed or as anxious. Many people believe that feelings such as stress, worry, frustrations, some of the things that you called out there, results from factors that are beyond our control. And it's true that many of our feelings are triggered by those external factors. But our thoughts and beliefs about ourselves, our work, and other people inform how we view the world. So they're the rules that we've developed over years to guide our daily actions, to make those quick decisions, to get 2 + 2 = 4, etc. And it's really these beliefs that drives how we respond to those external events. So what we're thinking will determine how we feel. And if we can learn to challenge and change the way we think, we therefore change the way we feel. And what this isn't about is, yay, think happy thoughts and everything's going to be fine. It's not about that. It's about recognizing and challenging the unhelpful and negative thought patterns in order to lessen that anxiety and the stress that we feel in difficult situations, such as the one we've just gone through. And when the pressure is on, we can often stop thinking clearly and we lose perspective. And that cognitive flexibility, which some would describe it as, is about thinking differently. It's about navigating a different response. It's about thinking, do you know what? Let's not allow this to own me. Let's not allow this to be exacerbated. And as a result, we get to a different output and therefore a different feeling. And this is all based on that cognitive behavioral techniques, CBT, as some might know it as, and is well established, tried and tested. Okay, so there's the 4 factors. Kate, back to you.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think we can all probably think of a time where, there's negative thought processes being spiraling, and it's just about, pausing and thinking, is this reality? Could I be thinking in a different way here? Because that's then going to affect the output of how you feel. So it's just being mindful of that and be aware of your thought process. So, so those are the 4 resilience factors. So stay positive, our ability to be able to see the good in things and remain upbeat, thinking about our energy, our ultradian cycles, and using that to be as productive as possible and stay positive. Being focused again, so it's knowing what you're working towards. If you don't know sort of goals, whether that's company goals or individual goals or values or what you're working towards, then it's very hard to stay on track, isn't it? So making sure that you and your colleagues are aware of those goals and what you're working towards. Dealing with uncertainty, it is tough, right? Particularly with everything that's happened with the pandemic, and there's so many things that are unknown, right? At the moment, it is tough, but it's trying to be okay outside of our comfort zone and pushing ourselves to have that growth mindset. So it makes it easier each time we do that. And then building agility, again, is understanding our emotions. So it's about reframing, not being fazed by things that trigger us, just pausing in that moment, and not letting them impact on other relationships around us or having an impact or a negative effect on our own mental resilience. Okay, so about reframing and redirecting where possible, and having people around you to support you to do that as well. Now, the secret we're going to offer up is well, it's not really a secret, isn't it? Everybody knows this, but we don't do enough of it, right? It's to be able to have resilience, to be able to bounce back, to be able to have energy. We have to be able to step away. We have to be able to recharge, recover. And I'm sure we can all agree there have been times when we don't do that. And particularly when we are under pressure and stressed and overwhelmed, we should be doing this even more to be able to protect ourselves and be able to protect our mental health and build on resilience. So it's about being proactive, protecting this time fiercely, I would say, to make sure that we are taking time to have that headspace to step away. And quite often when we do, we actually come back and we feel more creative, right? And we're actually more productive. So we can't be resilient if we are always in our threat response, right? If we are in our fight or flight mode, which we are quite often when we're under pressure. Okay, so it's about stepping away, having that headspace with doing whatever you enjoy doing to get that. For some people, it's working out. For some people, it's watching a film, socializing with friends, walking the dog, whatever it is. Do it as much as possible and protect that time. Okay, so doing taking that time out to rest and recharge. And as I said, quite often it's where we have the best ideas and we can come back. So again, I'd love in the room chat really, really quickly to type in a few ideas of what do you do to recover and recharge? Where do you get your best thinking space so you can come back and feel rested and recharged? Let's have a look. We've got a yoga, a morning run, a gym, swimming. Somebody on a previous course said that cleaning was something they did, and I wish I could say the same, but that is definitely not one for me. Meditation, reading, brilliant, listening to music, and it's going to be different for everybody, but really protect that time and encourage others around you to do the same, particularly if you know that there are barriers to their resilience at the moment, or they're under pressure, making sure you're supporting them with taking that time out to rest and recharge. Baking, playing on Switch, yeah, friends and family, absolutely. So do that as much as possible. Brilliant, thanks for sharing all of those. What next? So we've sort of finished with the bulk of the information, and hopefully we'll have a minute at the end to take questions in terms of what next. So it's looking at the self-assessment, the PQ self-assessment that Rich popped into the room chat for you, and exploring that maybe a little bit further, thinking about your saboteurs and how you can overcome them. Thinking about focus, that's an area that you need to work on. Can you maintain focus? Can you prioritize your time? Be open to change, always having that growth mindset is great for staying positive, but it's also great with dealing with uncertainty, pushing yourself to try new things. Do you do enough of that at work, for example? Do you do enough of that outside of work? Is that an area of opportunity? Being aware of emotion, so really exploring, taking time to explore, what are your triggers? Are you managing that effectively? Are you building on your emotional intelligence, and keeping those triggers in check so that you're not having that impact your own resilience and those around you? And then helping your teams around you by sharing these tips, right? So you can share these with team members, or maybe talk about it on the next team meeting, and maybe look at ways you can support each other as well with resilience. Rich, I'm going to pass over to you for the last slide. Perfect.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. So team, go away and think about what you can do. Like I said, take away one action, even if it's just one action, simple action that you can go away and do from today's 60 minutes. And we've had a big subscription to this, so we thought it'd be remiss of us if we don't promote the next one, which is in line with Learning at Work Week, which is with the co-founder of People of Oxtonia, Manwani, on the 17th of May, and he's going to explore the subject of personal development plans. Now, often this is met with, oh, that sounds boring, but Tony will make it as engaging as possible and make it relevant and hopefully make it stick. So he talks about the purpose of personal development, career planning, setting goals, creating development plans, and making it stick. And I've shared the link there for you to sign up nice and early. Okay, so I'm going to conclude the session and then we're going to open up the Q&A. Apologies, me and Kate have overrun as we thought we would because of the passion of the subject, but hopefully you've got lots to take away. And if you want to stay on board, please feel free to do so, to ask some questions, which me and Kate will happily take now. A couple of things from me. We've done this as a sort of thank you to our network to hopefully help people improve. So it'd be really nice to hear what you thought of this. We're going to hopefully put on more and more of these free webinars on. So do take the opportunity to either scan the QR code here or use the link which I've just popped in there to leave some feedback. Should take 2 minutes. And if you want to be involved in more of our network, more of our free offerings, advice, guidance on LinkedIn, do give us a follow there, which is the right-hand side one. Okay. On that note, what I would say, if you want to stay on board and ask some questions, me and Kate will happily take that on. But what we're going to do is we're going to shut down the webinar in terms of the information that we've given. So if you want to leave now, now's the time to do so. So thank you very much for joining. And hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers, team. Well done. Yeah, thanks for all the kind comments there, team. Thank you for joining. And we will keep an eye. Please feel free to type into the chat a question, which we will definitely try our best to answer. Kate.
Thanks, Nicole. Have a lovely day. Day 2. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, yeah, thanks, team. So yeah, don't worry, we're not going anywhere. If it's taking you a while to type into the chat, then absolutely feel free to do so. There is also the function here as well to put up your hand. If you want to put up your hand, and then what me and Kate can do is actually unmute the microphone. But we've had our first question come in there, Kate, which is, are there any resources that you would recommend for recovering from burnouts, please? Kate?
Yeah, so there are actually some resources that I can send to you. So if you would like to put your, if you're happy to, Anita, pop your email address in and I can email those over to you.
Yeah, and Anita, if you're worried about sharing that with everyone else,
you can do that. Yeah, you can do it privately.
To Kate, and then she can do that. If not, type it to everyone. Yeah, Dave as well. Do the same for Kate. We can send that across. Absolutely. Yeah, good question there, Anita. And what we're trying to do as we move forward, as we try and improve our mental health and well-being offer within People Unbox, we're creating a resource page on our website that's free to access, not just for people who have attended our mental health first aid courses, but also for those that haven't, because I think the more information we have on this, the bigger a difference we can make. So keep checking back to that when you can. Kate, have you made a note of both Dave's and Anita's?
Yes, I have. Thank you. Thank you both. Yeah, brilliant.
Okay. Has anyone got any other questions? As I said, we'll give it a couple more minutes to see if anyone's sort of typing, or maybe you're more of a reflector and you're just thinking about how you want to ask a particular question. You can put your hand up. More than happy for you to do that. But if not, feel free to leave. You might be hanging around to see if anyone's got any good questions, because we often learn from the questions. And thank you, Michaela, for those kind words and completing the feedback form. Gold star.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, team, we're going to give it another minute. Give it another minute, see if there's any other questions coming in, and then if not, we will be closing down the session. As I said, we're going to send out an email if you've given the right email with a few bits of information from today's session, and the recording for those that didn't make it or want to reflect on it will be available on our website in a few days' time as well. Okay, Kate, so we've got a question here from Rachel. Any advice on how to raise mental health concerns about someone with them who may not be receptive? That's quite a good question, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's all around, starting those conversations. It's not always easy, is it, to start conversations around mental health? And it's, first of all, leading with empathy and kindness. And, not everybody's ready, right, to hear things, or maybe not in the right frame of mind. But I think certainly by being present, making sure using empathic listening is a huge one. Stephen Covey's levels of listening help with that, to really see things somebody from their point of view. So using empathy, taking a walk a mile in their shoes. And I would say it's inviting it into the conversation. So maybe saying, we absolutely don't have this conversation, but I want you to know, if you do want to talk about anything, I'm here, right? Because sometimes that's enough to let people know that you are there and you are willing to help and you do want to support them, but not forcing them to. And maybe signposting them discreetly to any resources that you have within your work environment, whether it's an employee assistance program, or maybe it's to self-help websites for them to have a little bit more of an understanding about what could be going on. But certainly just keeping those lines of communication open with care and empathy, and saying that you are there if they would like to talk. But absolutely, it might be that they're not ready at the moment if they're being resistant.
Yeah, and I think building on Kate's point there, it's about patience and perseverance. Don't write that person off just because they don't want to talk about it there and then. You obviously care enough to ask that question about them. So have that patience, that perseverance, and that kindness to create the environment, as Kate was mentioning, to be able to eventually, hopefully, have that chat. But it has to be on their terms, doesn't it? It has to be on their terms. So yeah, question. Thank you.
And sometimes to open the conversation, it's just nice to say, I've noticed you just haven't quite seemed yourself recently. Is there anything you'd like to talk about? Or it's just quite nice to start it off with.
Yeah, good. Hopefully, Rachel, that answers your question. You're welcome. Okay, then. Team, thanks very much. Kate, do you want to finish with final words, and then we'll close down the session, because I think that's everyone.
Yeah. Brilliant, absolutely. Well, thank you, and for those that stay behind to ask questions, and thank you for those that filled out the feedback form. It's brilliant, and giving your thanks. I mean, Rich and I, this is a topic we're both passionate about, so we've really enjoyed, and we love doing these sorts of sessions. So, as I said, everything will be shared. You'll be having the recording, so please do spread the word. I think the more we understand about resilience and share with others, the easier it is sometimes when we're in hard times. So thank you all so much. It's been a delight.
Yeah, thanks very much, team. And we're going to shut it down now. So thanks very much, and take care of yourself, take care of others. Until next time, bye.
Bye.